Hello, future bestsellers. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world today. Look, we got Odie back here. Let me see him.
Hey.
He's just chilling out today. It's kind of overcast today. I'm Lisa Daly. It's so great that you guys are here today. I am super excited to start writing. And so let's talk about our little group here. Let's do our intros. I'm going to start with you, Michelle.
All right. I'm Michelle Schusterman. I write young adult and middle grade novels, and my channel is Writing Workshops, Traditional Publishing Chat, and Writing Vlogs.
Thank you very much for being here,
Thank
as always. Robert Jones, tell us a little about you and your awesome channel.
My channel is The Story Detective, where I take various forms of storytelling and put it under a Sherlockian microscope and break down the craft for the viewer. And shameless plug, I'm also doing developmental edits, and I had a client meeting this morning, and it's a self-published author, and the book that I edited turned out to be one of her best-selling books. So proof
Get
that craft
out,
can
Robert.
work.
You know what? You deserve it, buddy. We're very proud of you. Very
It
nice.
made my day.
Very, very nice. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, as always, I'm Lisa Daly. I'm a hybrid author, formerly traditionally published, now primarily indie published, and I write contemporary romance and nonfiction advice. Primarily writing advice now. I'm very excited because I have a new book that's going to be coming out really soon called How to Write a Self-Help Book in 14 Days. I'm very excited about it. Anyway, let's talk about what we're going to be working on today and say hi to some of our friends in the chat. Devin's here. Hello, Devin. We are super excited to see you today. Comet's here. Good morning. Daisy's here. Hey, Daisy. We're super glad to see you today. Christian, I finally made it into one where I was writing to, excited to be writing at the same time. Yay! All right, Christian, we are super, super glad to see you. Maz is here. You're a rock star. I know it's kind of a pain because what was it last week? We all went back to, or I don't know. I can never remember which direction we're going. Daylight savings time screwed everybody up again. So I wish they'd just pick one and stick with it, honestly.
Same.
So yeah, that would be great. It messes, even though I make my own schedule, it still messes me up. I don't like it. I don't like it, and I don't like it. So let's go ahead and get our 5-minute warm up sprint done here. Let me see what we've got. Oh, of course, it's not coming up. Timer. Hold on one second. What? This is my fault, guy. There we go. I totally normally would pull up all my sprints ahead of time, but for you guys who don't know, we did start mostly on time, but I rolled up about 10:59 because I got distracted. I was writing this morning. I started late. I got distracted. So I've had all day. I forgot a client meeting this morning. I just completely spaced it out, went for a walk. My brain is not willing to do time today.
No.
So I know, right? Hopefully we can whip it into shape with some 20-minute sprints.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to start off, as we always do, with a 5-minute warm-up sprint. And this is a great time for you to open your document, get a drink, caffeinate yourself in some other way if you need to, or do whatever else you need to do. But we're going to do 5 minutes on the clock, and then we'll come back for a little chit chat, talk about what we're working on today, and then we'll get rolling with our 20-minute writing sprints. All right, everybody, here we go. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's cha-cha. All right, we are back. So, yay! I got my document. Well, I already have my document open, but I think I took my vitamins, so that's good. So, so for anybody who sends out a newsletter, I wanted to like make you guys aware of something that's happening right now. Um, just a quick little warning. I just posted a link. Oh, that was weird. Oh, it like split the link into two things.
Mm.
So there's a I'll do a bit.ly link or something so that it won't split it. That's really weird that it did that. In any case, the article that I just posted in the chat is a Forbes article about how Google and Yahoo are changing their bulk email policies, and they're trying to basically cut down on spam emails and other problems. And so what they're making everybody do is to validate the URL that you're sending from. So you have to put a little code in on your website. I don't know how to do it. Or you have to pay your web person, or Amy, who is I don't know if she's here today, but you can pay Amy Rowe to do it for you. But if you don't do it, you're not going to be allowed, or your stuff will not be delivered, and you may not be allowed to send, depending on your platform, starting April 1st. So, not an April Fool's joke. Get your mailing list in order if this is going to impact you. Which, of course, if you have an author mailing list, it will. So, this is just a little heads up a couple days before the deadline.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. So, but I thought one of my clients had a problem with his email last night, and so we had to delay to try and figure it out. It was an unrelated problem, but in trying to solve it, this thing popped up. So, I thought MailerLite was just nagging me. Every once in a while they have a thing they get on, and so I thought it was one of those. But no, this time it's real. Okay, so what are you guys working on today?
I'm working on a ghostwriting outline.
Yay!
Yeah.
Super fun. What kind of book?
It is a middle grade fantasy, and it is actually the fourth book in this series that I've done for this client, and it's the last one. So we're wrapping it all up,
Yeah, that has to be a little bit bittersweet because because you're like, oh, it's over, but also, yay, it's over. So yeah,
Exactly.
I get that. I totally get that. Robert, what are you working on today?
I am still editing my own manuscript today, working on a chapter that I've been stuck on for the past few days. It's just one of those chapters I can't quite get around.
I feel that. I don't know. I was just talking with one of my coaching clients about this same topic the other day, and I find that usually when I get stuck, or when my clients get stuck, it's because you don't really know what you need to write next. Like that there's some little thing that you have not, even though you're like, okay, I've got the outline, but for whatever reason there's some little thing that you haven't solved, and that's what's holding you back.
Yes. I took a day off, and I think I solved the larger part of it, but piecing things together is I think I'm still stuck in the mode where I was stuck in the mode.
I feel that. So I am not writing today. I am going to be putting together some marketing materials for the book launch. So that's what I'm doing today, which I know I'm kind of a nerd, but I actually like that stuff. So I know a lot of people hate it. I think it's because I'm I was in advertising back in the day, and there's something about me that sort of loves it. So anyway, okay, cool. What are you guys working on in the chat? Let us know. We've got Joanna's here today. First time I'm able to watch you live. So happy. Yay. We are so happy to have you here, Joanna. Very, very nice. Well, let's get going and go ahead and pop right into our very first 20-minute writing sprint. Let me put that up on the clock there. Here we go. All right, everybody, we're going to do 20 minutes and get some serious work done today. I'm feeling very motivated. I hope you are too. And if you're not, maybe some of ours will rub off on you. Okay, here we go, everybody. We're going to get started in 3, 2, 1. Let's write. All right. Fantastic. How did everybody do on our last sprint? That was a good one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
It went by so fast for me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it really flew by.
Did.
Yeah.
All right, let's say hi to folks who trickled in as we were doing our first sprint. Ms. Swift is here. Hello. We are super glad to see you today. Christian is wrapping up first draft of the sixth book of my horror thriller series. Yay, good for
Ooh,
you.
wow.
Nice work. Javi's here. Hello. We're super glad to see you here today. Leah's here. We have so many people, so many great people here today, including the fabulous Mary Putnam. Hello. We are super glad you're here today. Aloha for, I don't even know how to say this. Anybody who's been to Hawaii? I've been to Hawaii lots of times, but I've never been to Mililani, Hawaii.
Mililani, looks like.
It does look like that.
Mililani.
Oh, yay. You know what, Robin? I am super, super glad to hear that. And also, that fabulous app was actually a recommendation from Michelle. So I am so happy that that you are finding it useful. It really is a lifesaver. Like it is just, yeah. I mean, it has sped things up for me so much. So I'm really glad it's working for you. That is phenomenal. Victoria's here. Hello, Victoria. We are super glad to see you here today. Texas is here. Miss Texas G. We're so glad that you are here today. I feel like I have to keep turning my lights up because it's like so dark and yucky outside. I need like a little extra. Here, let's see. Woo, dark. All right, I'm a dork. We're not too shiny, just a little lighter. All right, we're gonna do that. Okay, no, too shiny. There. Okay, whatever. All right, sorry. I have an app on my phone for my lights, and I'm kind of thrilled by it. I don't know why. It's super nerdy. Robin says, "Thank you both. I love it. Was not having a great time typing it all out. I can feel your pain there. Totally, totally feel that." So, uh, what are you guys working on in the chat? Let us know. Drop a little line in to tell us if you have not done that already. Avi's got a great question. How long will RV Michelle be author on the road? I want to do a road trip of all 51 states.
Yeah.
Is that in our future, Michelle?
I don't know. Well, I can pretty much guarantee we're not schlepping this van to Hawaii, so no. But
Not
Alaska,
even Mililani, Hawaii.
I know. Not that I don't want to go to Hawaii, but the van will not be coming with me if I ever go. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really planning. I mean, I don't. We're not really planning it that way, like trying to hit certain states. For me, honestly, it's more like where can I be in the nicest weather, depending on the time of year. You know, like so it's not too super cold, but not too super hot. And that actually is trickier to do than you would think. You have to do a lot of long
Really?
planning to think of. Yeah, because it takes so long to drive
Right.
to certain places, and we don't want to spend all day driving. We like to just
Right.
move a little bit every week and like take some time in the place. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how long we're gonna do this. No idea.
That's really great. That's really great. I love that you guys are doing it. I could not do it because I do not like to be in the car for very long at all. Like I have kind of a rule, if it's more than 3 hours, I will take a plane because I can't, even though it sometimes takes longer to, like if you're like in a 4 or 5 hour trip, by the time you get to the airport, check in, all that other stuff, it actually does maybe take you a little longer. But
Yeah.
I do not like sitting in the car at all. You're welcome. I'm so glad that you like it. So glad. John, hello. I guess I will do an editing sprint with you folk. Well, us folk are happy that you are here with us today. I can share it or Michelle can share it. It's called
Dictate.
It's just called Dictate. I always try to do this. It looks like, let's see if you can see it. No. Of course, my phone turned off. It's got a little there. Can you guys see it? It's this. All right, never mind. It's dark. But the icon is like a royal blue, and it's got like aqua squiggly lines on it. And it's just called Dictate in the App Store. And it's absolutely phenomenal. Love. Ms. Swift also doing dictation transcription cleanup. That is one thing about dictating is that you have to do some cleanup afterwards. Avi is an author nomad like Michelle for sure. Love it. Leah's going to be starting my YA romantasy first draft today.
Nice.
Love that. Love that. Mama Ward is here. Hello. I love Central Cali, around and north of San Fran, but one 4.5 earthquake and a noped.
Noped back to the land of tornadoes.
Yeah, wildfires and blizzards. Love that. I feel like so the horror geek and I are considering moving from Florida because of
Mhm.
all of the hurricanes every year, and they just get worse. And like at some point, you're like, I don't want to move my lanai furniture anymore. And so, right, it like becomes like this thing, like it used to be once every 10 years you had to worry about losing everything, and now it's like 4 times a season, and that it's gotten to be too much. But I think so. He would love to like go back to Pittsburgh, which is where he's originally from, and we have talked about that, which I'm still having a hard time getting my head around that, because you guys know what a Florida tropical beachy girl I am. And I think sometimes I go, well, maybe I could do it, but then I think the first snowstorm I'm going to be like,
Yeah,
no
it's a
fun.
lot.
Yeah. Mama War says I like to be able to see my natural disasters coming. Well, that is one advantage of hurricanes. You have days and days of
True.
disaster porn before it happens. And often you do all that preparation, you bring all your stuff in, and then it hits somewhere farther down the line, which
Yep.
is so sad because you're always hoping that it doesn't hit you, but you know it's going to hit somebody else. And I always feel a little guilty when that happens. Like I'm such a powerful manifester. I've saved myself, but some other person is going to get, creamed. All right. Mama Word says, okay, because I prefer dictation. Fantastic. Avi's going to be working on a prequel for my Gossip Girl X on anime project. Bridgerton had
Nice.
the Queen Charlotte spinoff, so why not me? I love this idea. I love it. Maz is still working on the unreliable narrator story, giving the MC a few extra IQ points, but more spite. Love that. Right? Let me just say something really funny. I actually got my driver as a child. I lived in Denver for a while, and I got my driver's license in a blizzard. But I
Wow.
don't like it, and I have not shoveled snow. So a funny thing is, I think I lived in Florida for like a decade before I got rid of my snow scraper. Even though I had not been in snow, like there's something about living in a cold place where you just have to always have the snow scraper.
Mm.
And but yeah, I cannot fathom that. That feels like a job for the horror geek. North Carolina is great. I'm from Texas, but as I've gotten older, it's just too hot.
It is so hot.
That's very
Summers
true.
are awful.
Right, and it's just going to get worse everywhere. All right, John is going to start my culinary fantasy soon. A title: A Court of Barbarians and Biscuits.
That's cute.
Love that. Mama Ward says dictation for the days my hands don't work, on the days my brain is so excited for the story it won't slow down for long. Yeah, right. Yeah, love that. We got that, John. We love you. That's fantastic. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and do another. The horror geek is hovering by my office here. Do you have something exciting to say to the group? No. Okay. All right. Then let's go ahead and do our next sprint. Here we go. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Here we go, everybody. We are going to get started with our next 20-minute writing sprint starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's cha-cha. Right. So this is funny that the horror geek brought in this package that arrived, and he was all excited because it was something. It was from someplace called Printed in Blood.
That
And
sounds
he
awesome.
was right. He was like a kid at Christmas time. He's like, "What's this? What's this?" Which is a lot of times when I get. He likes a lot of weird stuff. A lot of times when I get gifts for the horror geek, I will like order thing. You know, he always wants these like special edition books or limited edition whatever, and so you have to grab it like right that second, but a lot of times it's like 6 months or a year later before you get it. And I try to sort of keep an idea like, oh yeah, I've got a gift for Valentine's Day, which is what I originally thought that was going to be, but
Mhm.
it just showed up today. And but he's been really sweet to me lately, so I decided to give it to him anyway. He was all excited. So and
Awesome.
he'd never seen it before, which is like impossible to do. He knows everything about everything in the horror community. So if I ever surprise him, that feels like a double win. I know I'm such a nerd. All right. We have tons and tons and tons of comments here today. Let's see what's going on. Mama Ward says, I do not miss the Texas weather swings, but spring and fall in Colorado aren't much better.
Mm.
True. True. When I lived in Colorado, like we moved in the summer when I was a kid, and like the first week, it was like we had snow and 80 degrees during the same week in, I think, June or July. Like, what?
Yeah,
Yes, we were at the stage where you turn your AC on during the day and the heater on at night. We've had a
that's
little bit.
annoying.
We've had a little bit of that lately. Heather's here. Hello, Heather. Super, super glad to see you today. Very, very glad. Very, very nice. So, how did everybody do on that last sprint?
That was really good
I
for me.
figured out the problem. So
Me too. Oh, good. Me too. I know I'm feeling like very productive today. I just want to keep going and keep going and keep going. I normally will like comb through my Instagram and all of that for writing questions, and I did not do that this week. So if anybody has a writing question that they want, or just a question in general, that they want to talk about, we can just go ahead and drop it in the chat, and we will do our best to cover it. So I did have one thought about new adult. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but new adult, this is a genre of books. I wrote in this genre. Single Minded is technically a new adult book, and like 15 years ago, St. Martin's was all about new adult. They were the ones that sort of introduced this concept, but we don't really like we didn't really see anything for a couple of years, like down to like in like 20, I don't know, in like early 2020, there when people were just reading like crazy because of the pandemic, there were hardly any new adult books dropped. But because I have the podcast, I get pitched a ton of romance titles, and suddenly new adult seems like it's back with a vengeance. I'm all of a sudden getting pitched all of these new adult titles again.
Hmm.
And so I'm curious if anybody has a perspective on like why it went away. I mean, when rom-coms went away, they were gone for like 15 years. It was not just a couple years.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any thoughts on why that might have happened?
Well, okay. Am I wrong in thinking new adult isn't just about the age level, but there's always like a pretty heavy romance
Yeah.
component?
Yes. Yeah, so I guess you could technically, so new adult is generally up to about age 30, and
Hmm.
basically it's YA with sex. But
That okay, so book talk. I'm just gonna say it. Book talk is why it's a thing again.
yeah, I mean that right, because they're all about the sex.
But yeah,
They really are, which I love. Like, okay, I love a whole bunch of sex positive ladies and gentlemen over there on TikTok. Like, that's only good for romance writers. But you are probably right. I bet that's exactly what it is. It's TikTok that's driving that. I do think that like that new adult, like there is some of that sort of crossover because it's not always romance. Sometimes there's
Yeah.
fantasy, but
Right.
right. But I'm wondering if, I mean, obviously romance has seen a resurgence in new adult, but that's where I'm seeing it just in the pitches that I'm getting. Are you guys seeing this somewhere else? Anybody who's writing anything else? Fantasy or mystery or whatever, are you seeing that sort of new adult being popular again? I mean, one of the things about like it is YA with sex, but I think the thing that sort of defines new adult is that your your characters are transitioning from youth, like college, into, you know, sort of the adult phase of their
Yeah.
lives. They're getting jobs, they're having like their first serious relationships, they're, you know, that kind of thing.
To me, that's kind of amazing anyway, because most genres, the characters are like mid 20s to 30s, maybe. And it seems like that would not be a thing that would fade out, especially for 15 years. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Mama Ward's got an interesting point here. She said, "I finally figured out so why so many YA style, as in the way it's written, not the story, have adulty things. My sister-in-law revealed what the latest literacy level is for the country. This is scary. 6th or 7th grade. Did you know? Like, I don't doubt that. That's so sad. Just, like, let's take a moment to mourn the death of literacy. Um, that's really sad. That's really, really sad. And you'd think we would do better. I know for a long time it was about an 8th grade level, and the only reason I know this is because, like, if you take a driver's license test in a new state, it's written at an 8th grade level, and
Hmm,
I
interesting.
yeah, like, and that's all across the country, and I think a lot of places have laws that say that, like, if it's, like, a government thing, it has to be written at an 8th grade level because they wanna obviously make it accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
So, Leah says bookstores have also started adding new adult displays recently, I've noticed, but I'd agree it seems more like a response to Book Talk that than the thing that's driving it. Good point, very good point. I'm sorry, I just read Miss Texas's comment before just what made me crack up. She's a speech therapist, reading comprehension specialist with a PhD, working on a second doctorate. Nice, very nice. Is that 11 to 12-year-olds? Yeah, 6th grade. It's
Yeah.
like 12 to 13, right? 6th grade is usually around 12. Is that right?
I think sixth grade is like 11, 12.
And
Seventh
7th
is,
grade, 12,
oh,
13.
yeah, 13 and 13, 14, eighth grade. That sounds right.
Okay.
I think.
That makes sense. Daisy said, I've heard YA has become almost synonymous with romance, so readers, many boys seem to either stay in middle grade as long as possible or jump to adult or give up reading. Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, technically, YA can actually go like sort of up through college. And I think that's why St. Martin's had, you know, initially sort of taken this, you know, new adult title, because you obviously you don't want to market YA books about that sort of coming of age with sex in them to, you know, to kids, but also people who are in high school and college want to read about those types of experience in high school and college. So it makes, you know, perfect sense that they would do that. That's really interesting though about middle grade, about boys and YA. I'm trying to think of like when you think about the Hunger Games and those types of books that were so popular. Um, I mean, I think boys are still reading those. What? How would you classify those books?
What, like Hunger Games?
Yeah.
Oh, those are YA.
Well, that's what I think. I
Oh,
mean, obviously, those are not new books, but
no,
are,
not new, but they're definitely YA.
are there still? I'm not in that world anymore because
Yeah.
my kids are not reading at that age level anymore. But are there? I assume that there are more Suzanne Collins
Yeah,
coming
I
up
mean,
all the time.
Ballad of Snakes and Songbirds or whatever the Hunger Games prequel, that movie just came out. I mean, it's still part of the, and the book sold fantastically well.
Yeah, I'm sure it still
It's
sells.
like, it really is just this specific moment wherein I think this is all culminating with like when you're talking about new adult, I think about romantasy is just having its own special moment. Like Fourth Wing, That book has, I can't remember the number of copies, but it's absolutely mind-boggling how many copies it sold in a year, and how it continues to sell. And so naturally publishers are looking at these things that are top sellers, and they're like, let's acquire more things like that. And they're
Right.
giving more books like that. What they're constantly overlooking is the fact that while a lot of readers obviously want these books and it's great that they're getting them, there are a lot of other readers who are getting left out now because that's not their kind of thing, and publishers are publishing less of the kind of things they might want to read. Like, for example, a book that might appeal to a 16-year-old boy who is looking for a not romantic YA read.
Right. Right.
Or girl. I mean, a lot of girls aren't into romance either. It's not my genre.
True.
And it wasn't
True.
at that age either.
No.
Yeah, it's just it's that need publishers have to just, oh, Colleen Hoover is big, let's make everything Colleen Hoover. Oh,
Right.
Fourth Wing is big, let's make everything Fourth Wing. And it's, again, great that they want to publish more of that because there's a huge audience for it, but bad that other types of books seem to be like getting less and less marketing and less and less acquisitions as a result because they aren't seen as being as potentially profitable.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
not a new
that's
thing
true.
either. I
Yeah.
mean, we've been looking at marketing to the average 12-year-old for decades, which is
Yeah.
sad, but that's our educational system.
Yeah. Yeah. We could go into that. I could have a conversation, but that's not why we're here. So
Yeah, I know.
I could totally talk about that for hours and hours, but I think we'd lose like everybody who's here to write today. I do think though that we should say, as much as publisher, and this is something publishers and movie studios have done forever. I mean, this is why we had 17 Marvel movies a year for decades. And but there's an opportunity there if you are an author who does not write Colleen Hoover books or whatever the thing is that everybody wants this very moment, is that you can write the books for your people and for yourself and publish them independently and build your own audience. That those people, if they're not being served by the big publishers, they're still going to look for the books that they want to read. And so that opportunity has been one of the big opportunities for indie publishing for a really long time. Let's see. The problem with the gap between middle grade and adult for boys results in junior high boys walking around with Game of Thrones and their single mom having no clue what is in it. I will say, if I had not seen the series, obviously, my 7th grader was walking around with Game of Thrones, I wouldn't know what was in that. But I do now. So Ma says, I've never enjoyed romance, but it's sad that it's implied that boys just avoid it because it's for girls. That is sad. Although I know plenty of boys that, like, first of all, male romance is a really big category, not just read by gay boys and gay men, but also straight women love male romance.
I do not get, like, just to be frank, if you're a teenage boy and you're straight, you're into girls, I'm just going to say you could get a lot more education out of reading these books than watching porn.
Right?
Do yourself a favor. Learn what girls want.
That is excellent advice, Michelle. Thank you very much. Very, very nice. I think part of it's 50% of YA readers are adult women who started with Twilight, and publishers are catering to that audience.
You're not. I don't think she's wrong about that. Like, that's, and that I know you didn't mean this in a disparaging way, and I don't either. It's a Twilight effect.
Yeah.
That was just like Harry Potter was the series that got middle grade and young adult on the map. Twilight is kind of like what did it for this new adult thing that we've been seeing in the last decade.
Right.
That was when it started happening, where more adults were buying young adult novels than young adults themselves.
Right. Yeah, the Twilight moms for sure were quite a powerful force. It's funny too, because I remember having to cover the Twilight books for the daytime show, because it was like such a huge cultural phenomenon. And I think the first movie was about to come out. I don't think it had come out yet. I think I did the segment in like before the movie came out. And all my friends were reading it. And they were like, oh, this is great. You're going to love it. And I picked up that book. And through the whole thing, I was like, oh God, the writing is like not super, right? Through the
Right.
whole thing. But I freaking stayed up till like 3 o'clock in the morning. I read that thing in one sitting. I had kids to take to school the next day. Like
Yeah.
it was, and the second and the third book, they didn't even have a plot. Like I wondered, like, how are they going to do this in the movie? They're going to have to like create a story arc here because
Yeah.
they really didn't, like, they just sort of meandered, and then she kind of figured it out by the fourth book a little bit. But there was something, I don't even know what it was. It was like, so I don't know if it was
It's a
just
vibe.
her
It's-
belief in herself that was so strong. I don't know what it was, but I could not put that book down. I couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
It was
The
terrible, and I
psychology
couldn't
of
put it down.
structure. If you get the psychology of structure right, the writing sometimes doesn't have to be great. I mean, I didn't think that, reading Harry Potter was the best written book, and he wasn't even the hero of his own story. But when I started analyzing like the first book, there's some pretty clever use of structure in there, and
Mm.
I think it supports it.
That's a really interesting perspective. I think too, with Twilight, the character of Edward, who's obviously the vampire who's in love with Bella, the human. he- so just from a romance perspective, part of the reason that this pairing is so compelling is that they both have to risk everything in order to be together, right? She's risking her life, he's risking his family's safety, and he has to deny, he loves her so much, he's willing to deny who he is in order to be with her, keep her safe, etc., right? So
Right.
it's like, it's, that makes sense, like why that part of
Yeah.
it works, because we, romance readers in particular, if
Like people love to people love to trash Stephanie Meyer's writing on like a prose level,
yeah,
and I'm not gonna debate that, but like you also can't argue that she has some skill
oh
because
yeah,
it's so compelling. Because what you just said about not being able to put it down, that's how a lot of people felt about that book. Like something about, and so she has a skill. People say the same thing about like Dan Brown. They'll make
Yeah.
fun of like his writing on a sentence by sentence level.
right,
And to debate that, but you can't deny the man makes you unable to stop reading at the end of a chapter.
right, I know.
He's skill.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. They're all very hooky, they're very sort of melodramatic,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I know, that's the thing. There's some magic in those books, and if you can figure out what that is
Mhm.
and reproduce it in your own work, you are off to a really spectacular start. But I love the fact that a number of books that became hugely popular started as fan fiction for other books, and that the love for the characters is so, sort of deeply infused into
Yeah.
this secondary work that it just becomes a thing on its own. Hashtag 50 Shades of Grey. So, right? I mean, this, like, again, terrible, but something for many readers that was very compelling. I was not compelled by that one. Go ahead. What you're saying?
Comments. That comment that you just had pulled up. There's an entire market not being catered to. See, that's the thing that I get so frustrated about is like, so Twilight and all of these books, they discovered a market, but it's like publishers are behaving as if this is the only market. And it's like there are a lot of people out there who would just as voraciously buy and read your books if you hit on that big thing,
Right.
which might be in a genre you're not giving a chance to. It might be in a book that has like failed at every acquisitions meeting, like.
Well, and then that happens all the time. Colleen Hoover, I think, didn't she publish herself because she couldn't find a publisher? And now she's like, yeah, and
Yeah.
she's and I could be confusing her story with someone else's, but I think this is right. And she originally self-published, and she just, like, she found this audience. And
Yeah.
Miss Texas G, I think you were completely exactly right.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying, like, these are the opportunities. And what's crazy is that, like, the shifter romances where somebody changes back and forth from like being a vampire or a werewolf or just a wolf in general, like whatever, that these are not areas that traditional publishers have have gone into in a really big way. They are now a little bit, but they have not, these are the kinds of books that they like laugh about, but
Yeah.
those books sell in a massive, massive way. A bunch of my 7-figure clients write shifter romance,
There you
and
go.
they were, yeah. And the thing that's crazy is there are people who want that. And Miss Texas, you are exactly right. There are people who want, you know, 55-year-old heroines, and you
Mhm.
can give it. I know you're doing this, but you should give it to them, because you're right. Like, you're not the only one that feels that way. I think there are a lot of people who are like tired of reading about 30-year-olds. So yeah.
I feel the same way about true young adults, because there's that divide now where you've got middle grade, and then all of a sudden it's like 18 and up, and there's usually sexually explicit content. Like, yes, a lot of kids, a lot of teens are going to want to read up, and they're curious about that stuff, and that's great. Those books are there for them. But I know there are a ton of young readers out there who just want, like, they just want to see like 15, 16-year-old heroes and heroines having adventures, and, like,
Yeah.
now it's not catered to adults, it's actually catered to them, and it's like true to the teen experience purely.
Right.
I know
Yeah.
that. I know those readers are out there, and they're getting screwed right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
think.
let me throw this out from a psychological point of view. And again, it comes back to psychology and structure. When you look at something like Twilight, you have this older, brooding male vampire with all these problems. And on a realistic level, it seems kind of creepy, but he's the ultimate bad boy for that young teenage girl fantasy.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
that
Oh,
started in Buffy.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's so true. Well, and speaking of fantasy, I know you guys know, like, one of the best books on writing you're ever going to read is called 7-Figure Fiction by one of my clients, Theodora Taylor. And she talks about these universal fantasies that we all have. And one of the big ones is the guy that everybody wants me. And that is the magic of Twilight, right? Every girl, like,
Mhm.
and even when in the scene, which is in the book, but also in the movie, where he like walks into the lunchroom, and I don't know, it's like her first or second day of school or whatever, and every eye turns to watch him,
Yeah.
and that is so, yeah, so
Yep.
compelling. That book is, she's a romance writer. She initially wrote it sort of as a general book, but there's kind of more of a focus on romance, and now she's done them, I think, for maybe fantasy and mystery, but just the original book, it, like, gives you such a different way to look at this idea of these sort of universal fantasy.
Mm.
All
Mhm.
right, you guys. Let Ma says, I did try to read Twilight. I got to page 100 before anything really happened. Well, don't read book 2 or book 3, because you get through the whole book and nothing happens. I should say. All right, you guys. Let's go ahead and do another writing sprint. Then we're going to come back and talk more about this. It's kind of a fascinating conversation. Dun, dun, here we go. All right, everybody. I think this is going to be our last writing sprint, which is good. I've been so productive today. I'm super excited about this. I'm so glad you guys are here with us. Here we go. Let's get our last sprint in, starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's cha-cha. All right. Fantastic. How did everybody do on that last sprint, our final sprint of the day?
Good.
Yay.
Very good.
Yay. Me too. It once again went by super, super,
Yeah.
super fast.
All of
So
these did.
yeah. So I love the I l- I love the little comment group that was going on after I think Mama Ward was talking about dialogue tags, and I think this is a great way for us to finish. You guys, let us know in the chat how you did on that last sprint. So Mama Ward says, I had a beta writer criticize me for using words other than said as dialogue tags. She was also upset that it was too smart. So So two questions here. Should you dumb down your books for your readers?
No.
And two, how do we feel about dialogue tags using said or other than said? I will say what I teach and also what I do is using said almost all of the time. For readers, it just sort of disappears into they don't even really notice them, and which is what you want, right? Focus on the dialogue, not on the dialogue tags. There are sometimes I read a book and they have overused non-said dialogue tags, and every line is he chortled, she blah blah blah, like everyone, and you're like, oh my God.
It's distracting when you overuse it. It's fine every once in a while,
Sure.
like a shouted or a yelled or
Right.
whatever.
It can be really powerful that way.
Right. But sparingly.
Yes, agreed. Robert, same take, different take.
Same take. And I think you can break up dialogue with an action without having to say it in an actionist way. It shows it more than tells the reader.
Yes. Yeah. Love that. Mama Ward was talking about Chappie Cliffy's every other chapter. I think she's talking
Yeah.
about
Dan Brown.
Twilight and Dan Brown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking. Okay. Heather had said there's nothing wrong with using other words for said as long as it's not too much, or even said, even though it definitely does disappear into the dialogue, as folks say. Agree.
Yeah, you can overuse said as well. I mean, if you plan it right and the voices are distinct, you don't always have to use the word said or any kind of tag. It's best if you can see the dialogue happening without it if possible. But
Yeah.
sometimes you have to put it in there if it goes on too long or if it becomes confusing or you have a group of people, then
Right.
you have to
Yeah.
indicate.
When you have three people, I think it makes it more challenging. I think when you have two people having a conversation, you want to tag them at the beginning so we know who's who. And
Mhm.
then depending on how long it is, you might want to tag them occasionally after, if it's a 7-page conversation, you're going to want to tag them again so that, a couple more times so that the reader doesn't get lost. But you make an excellent point that it's really great when your character voices are distinctive enough that you can that you don't have to tag them every single time. And you really don't want to tag them every single time, but you mostly want to tag them with said. and occasionally they can chortle or shout or scream and it's so funny. If I were just sitting here and writing this down, I could probably come up with 87 of them on the fly in my brain. Chortled. That's all I get. Keep coming back. Heather says,
Just grunted is a popular one.
yeah. Yeah, Ramona says, I had not read the book, but watched the movie as a woman in her 30s. I think, well, the Edward Bella story kind of appeals to the limbic system in our brain. True. I think there's some, and that's probably part of the reason why it just hit people in the way that they, people became obsessed with that book. The whole country was Bella. All of us obsessed with Edward. For sure. All right, fantastic. Maz says 50 Shades of Grey was self-published. That is initially true. Of course, now they do. She did end up getting a massive book deal, and I think they cleaned up the punctuation, but they didn't mess with very much else because I think they did not want to screw up the magic. Love, love, love. Devin loves strong female shifter action books with any sci-fi fantasy. Love, love, love. Right. Love this. And in fact, there are times where she pressures him and
Mhm.
he's like, hold it, I have to make sure I'm strong enough. Like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of universal fantasy in there. Cool Gamer is here. Hello. We are super, super glad to see you. Leah's headed out for lunch. Thanks so much. We're super glad that you are here today. Aw, awesome. Ma says, I get confused by don't have people raise their eyebrows, as I know a lot of people do that myself. What? I raise my eyebrows all the time. And my characters raise their eyebrow. What's wrong with that? Other than maybe it's overused.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess
People
used.
people raise their eyebrows in real life. Plus, I write about flirty boys. Sometimes they like to cock an eyebrow. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Um, yeah. So, what's so interesting? The book, from his point of view, does make him way creepier. So, so we're back to Twilight. She had written an alternate POV version of the first book in Twilight from Edward's point of view.
Mm.
And it was creepier. It didn't I don't think it wasn't released as a book. I think she maybe released it as like a bonus or something. Maybe I don't remember how I saw it. I just remember it wasn't really formatted and I had to download it in a weird way.
Mm.
But it was not, you'd think that you really want to read that POV if you liked the first book, but there was a little of the magic was gone. There was something about that, right? I guess it's harder to write about being hot than somebody else writing about how hot you are.
Yeah.
That's my theory, right? Oh, that's creepy. Super creepy. Yeah. Creepy, creepy, creepy. All right, guys, let's go ahead and do our outros. I got a ton done today. We did not answer a bunch of writing questions, but I'm glad that we had our good discussion on dialogue tags because I think they're so important. And yeah, so without further ado, let's adjourn. Robert, tell us a little about you and your awesome channel before we go today.
My channel is The Story Detective, where I take various forms of storytelling and put it under a Sherlockian microscope and break down the craft in hopes of making your journey easier.
Thank you so much for being here, Robert. Michelle, tell us a little about you before we go.
I'm Michelle Schusterman. I write middle grade and young adult books, and my channel is writing workshops, writing vlogs, and publishing chat.
You were looking up like you were forgetting.
I was.
What are we doing? I have that happen all the time. I'm glad it's not just me. Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Daly, and I write contemporary romance, primarily romantic comedy and nonfiction writing advice. And on my channel, we talk about how to write a book you're super proud of and get it published. And that is it. Right. I too forgot what my channel was about. You guys, thank you. Thank you guys so much for being here today. We will see you next Wednesday, as always, same time, same place, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here. All right. Have a great time, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Keep those keyboards clacking.
Woo.